Hello everyone, and welcome to the finale of Julore. In case you're new, for the entire month of July we've been making a sequence of videos all about lore of different franchises, and today is our finale with a timeline of the entire Marvel multiverse. We have a lot to get through, so keep an eye in the corner to follow along with the month and the year as we go along through the video. Also, we're including Fantastic Four First Steps, so there will be a spoiler warning when we get to that part. Anyways, without further ado, enjoy a timeline of the entire Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. The multiverse. A forest of branching timelines, infinite universes stacked upon one another. Outside of all this, residing within the fifth dimension, or the observational plane, is the Order of the Watchers. They all take an oath of non-interference, including their newest member, Uatu. Uatu forgoes his name and becomes the Watcher. Unfortunately, for the multiverse at large, many variants of a scientist in the 31st century begin discovering each other, but they all turn on each other and start a multiversal war. One of them takes advantage of a monster called Goliath to end the war. He isolates his timeline, puts Goliath in a void at the end of time, and collects an army of variants from his sacred timeline, founding the Time Variance Authority. From there, he takes his throne at a citadel at the end of time, leaving the TVA to maintain the sacred timeline under the imaginary rule of the three timekeepers, who are really just robots. However, knowing he would want to retire eventually, he began manipulating a series of events to find a replacement. He chooses the one person on the timeline who has the most, and most resilient, variants, besides maybe Deadpool, Loki. Using his control over time, he leads two Loki variants down a road where they encounter the TVA, apocalypse events, the fake timekeepers, and the Void, eventually bringing them to him at his citadel. Then, when offered a choice to kill him and unleash the multiverse, or take his place in charge of the TVA, Sylvie kills him. Loki then starts to time slip. He tracks down a variant of He Who Remains and tries desperately to prevent the temporal loom from destroying the multiverse, but he fails. Then after mastering his time slipping, he learns that there's no way to prevent it, so he sacrifices himself to hold the multiverse together. Whew! Wait, that was all just from one show? And we have how many left to go? Before the dawn of creation came the Celestials, who began their work to create everything within the universe. Soon after, the Big Bang brought the 6 Infinity Stones into existence. The Celestials continue their work, creating stars and planets, bringing life into the universe. The most prominent civilization to arrive here is that of Asgard, along with the rest of the 9 realms. Eventually, they come to create Earth, where they plant the seed of Tiamat. Arishem sends the Deviants to protect humanity, but they betray Arishem and begin hunting humanity instead. To counteract this, Arishem manufactures the Eternals to fight them. Later, Chthon carves a temple with dark incantations into Mount Mundigal. A vibranium meteor lands in what will become Wakanda. Ego begins planting his celestial seeds across the universe. 5 tribes settle where the vibranium meteor landed and begin warring with each other. The Choctaw Nation arrives on Earth. Eventually, a warrior named Bashanga receives a vision from Bast, the Panther Goddess, and becomes Wakanda's first king and Black Panther. Null, god of the symbiotes, is betrayed and imprisoned. The Eternals arrive in Mesopotamia and defend humans against the Deviants. The oldest mutant, En-Sabah-Noh, or Apocalypse, is buried by a group of his followers. The mystic arts begin. A sorcerer named Agamotto builds 3 sanctums to defend Earth from mystical threats. He also encases the Time Stone in a special amulet. Other gods begin following in Bast's footsteps and start interacting with Earth and humanity. Malekith attempts to destroy the 9 realms with the Convergence. The Dweller in Darkness attacks Ta Lo, but is defeated and locked behind a gate. Mjolnir is forged and is used by Hela in her and Odin's conquest against the 9 realms. The Darkhold is transcribed from the carvings in Mount Wundergold. A timeline branch forms when Odin tries to use the Tesseract to defend Asgard from Surtur. It fails, and the Tesseract's energy ends up infecting a lake on Earth. The Eternals fight the Deviants at the Battle of Babylon. After the battle, Ajax expresses doubt about their mission. The Kree-Skrull War begins. Cersei and Icarus get married. Odin ends Asgard's conquest and imprisons Hela when she disagrees. Footnote, this time frame doesn't line up exactly with what happens in What If Season 2, Episode 7, so either in that timeline branch Wenwu just exists earlier, or what we're going to go with, Odin just continues their conquest. Anyways, she soon escapes from her exile and massacres the Valkyries as they try to trap her again, leaving only one survivor. The Ancient One becomes Sorcerer Supreme, drawing upon the Dark Dimension to attain immortality. Odin battles the Frost Giants. The Eternals help too. After the conflict, Odin finds Laufey's child, Loki, adopting him as his own. A timeline branch forms when Odin, choosing to leave Loki instead of adopting him as his own. The Kree, still wrapped up with their war with the Skrulls, begin warring with the Nova Empire. Wenwu discovers the Ten Rings and begins leading an army to conquer Earth. In a timeline branch, Odin banishes Hela to Earth after deciding to end their conquest. When she arrives on Earth, she meets Wenwu and later makes her way to Ta Lo. During her banishment, she learns the value of protecting life, becoming the goddess of life and becoming a force of good in the universe alongside Wenwu. Loak from the Choctaw tribe gets supernatural help from her ancestors to win a game of stickball. Odin hides the Tesseract in Tonsberg, Norway. While searching with her brother, Kahori enters into a world within the lake that was infused with the Tesseract's power. She encounters a whole tribe that got powers from this other world and inspires them to use their powers to defend against conquistadors. The Eternals eliminate the Deviants, and after some internal conflict, they agree to go their separate ways. A group of Mayans fall ill to smallpox, but they find a cure in a vibranium-enhanced plant, which turns them blue and causes them to only breathe underwater. One of the Mayans, who was pregnant at the time, gives birth to a son who was born a mutant because of the plant. These Mayans, now given new life underwater, found the kingdom of Talocan. Agatha Harkness is put on trial for practicing dark magic. Her mother and her coven try to execute her, but Agatha kills all of them instead. Agatha gives birth to Nicholas Scratch, and has to beg Rio, or Mistress Death, to let him live. Agatha and Nicky Scratch create the Ballad of the Witch's Road, spreading the song while Agatha kills more witches, though eventually Nicky is taken away by Death. Tuklo, a member of the Light Horsemen, is empowered by her ancestors. Young Wolverine becomes close with young Sabretooth after killing his father. In a wildly different branch, Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop team up to rescue Shang-Chi's sister Xialing. The pair meet a kid named Jun Fan, though he is thrown off a train during their journey. Kingo becomes a Bollywood star. Johann Schmidt receives the Super Soldier Serum, turning him into the Red Skull. Red Skull finds the Tesseract in Norway. A group of other dimensional beings, called clandestines, find a bangle, one of the two quantum bands. Shortly afterwards, one of them, Aisha, flees from British troops with the bangle and meets a man named Hassan. After many attempts to join the US Army, Steve Rogers enlists and takes the Super Soldier Serum, becoming Captain America. A timeline branch forms when Steve Rogers is shot, forcing Peggy Carter to step in to take the Super Soldier Serum. Peggy goes on a mission to retrieve the Tesseract, which Howard Stark uses to build the Hydra Stomper for Steve Rogers. After enduring through a USO tour designed to sell war bonds, Captain America rescues his best friend, Bucky Barnes. During a mission to capture Hydra scientist Arnim Zola, Bucky tragically falls off the train they were on, ending up captured by the Soviet forces. On the same mission, Bucky is saved, but Steve and the Hydra Stomper are captured by Hydra. In one final conflict against Red Skull, the Tesseract sends Red Skull to Vormir, where he is cursed to guard over the Soul Stone. Steve Rogers, left with no other choice, crashes into the ice and is presumed dead. Red Skull uses the Tesseract to summon the mythical Hydra, which kills him and forces Peggy to sacrifice herself as she pushes it back through the portal. Charles Xavier meets Mystique. The young Magneto discovers his powers while suffering through the Holocaust. While searching for Steve Rogers, the Tesseract is recovered from the ocean. Agent Carter goes solo on the Zodiac mission, and afterwards becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. After joining S.H.I.E.L.D. in Operation Paperclip, Arnim Zola turns Bucky Barnes into the Winter Soldier. In a branch where Agatha Harkness learned of Tiamat within the Earth, she seeks the power of the Eternals to create a spell to steal Tiamat's power. Agatha makes her way to Hollywood and meets Kingo. Kingo eventually agrees to let Agatha borrow his power to complete her spell and drain Tiamat's energy. Arishem quickly arrives, only to be beaten by Agatha. Then, Kingo talks her out of abusing her new cosmic powers, and they go together into a life of Hollywood fame. Another of the clandestines, Najma, tracks down Aisha and kills her and tries to get the bangle. Then, with the bangle's power, Aisha's great-granddaughter, Kamala, is brought from the future to save Aisha's young daughter, Sana. A U.S. military veteran, Isaiah Bradley, is brought through experiments with the Super Soldier Serum. He is sent to fight the Winter Soldier, and not long after is wrongfully imprisoned. Charles Xavier unites the first class of X-Men, but during a battle is paralyzed, losing the use of his legs. Afterwards, Charles and Magneto part ways. Anton Vanko is hired by Tony Stark. Then a few years later, Vanko is deported back to the Soviet Union. Quick spoiler warning for Fantastic Four First Steps. Skip here if you need to. The Fantastic Four battled the Silver Surfer and Galactus as Galactus's hunger targets Earth. In a meeting, Galactus aims to take the unborn Franklin Richards, causing Sue to go into early labor. Upon their return, refusing to sacrifice the Earth or their child, they convince the people of Earth to construct portal bridges to teleport the planet across the universe to avoid Galactus. Silver Surfer interferes, but Johnny convinces her to oppose Galactus instead. Galactus finally arrives, and the four work together to push him through a portal, sending him far away from the Earth. Sue dies because of the battle, but Franklin brings her back to life. Blade is born as part vampire, though his mother unfortunately dies in childbirth. After losing a bet with Thor, Loki hijacks a plane under the alias of D.B. Cooper. Arnim Zola receives a terminal diagnosis and decides to digitally back up his consciousness. Wolverine and Sabretooth are captured during the Vietnam War and join Team X. Mystique kills Trask, leading to the development of the Sentinels. Ego, on his mission to have an offspring, visits Earth and falls in love with Meredith Quill. However, Ego chooses his expansion mission over his love of Meredith, so he puts a tumor in her head so he won't be drawn back to her. Wolverine ends up at odds with Sabretooth and winds up getting adamantium injected onto his skeleton. He faces off against Sabretooth and, Deadpool. Ultimately, he is shot in the head with an adamantium bullet, causing him to lose most of his memories. Isaiah Bradley fakes his death to escape prison. Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne go on a mission as Ant-Man and the Wasp. Unfortunately, Janet is forced to go subatomic, and she is lost to the quantum realm. As a footnote, based on the way the quantum realm works, there must be a branch here or earlier for there to be a separate branch for the zombie timeline, since branches cannot form within the quantum realm. Ego hires a Ravager, Yondu, to bring his son, Peter Quill, to him. A branch forms when Yondu has his Ravagers capture Peter Quill for him. They end up messing up the mission, ending up in Wakanda and finding T'Challa instead. Another branch forms with Yondu fulfilling his mission and returning Peter Quill to Ego, where he learns of his powers and starts helping Ego take over the universe. Footnote, this branch technically has to form earlier, but don't worry about it too hard. Peter Quill arrives on Earth to conquer it for Ego. Peggy Carter, Howard Stark, Hank Pym, Bill Foster, T'Chaka, Winter Soldier, Mar-Vell, and Thor work together to help Peter face his father and drive Ego away from Earth. Ava Starr's parents are killed in an explosion that gives her phasing abilities. Afterwards, she is adopted by Bill Foster. Mar-Vell brings the Tesseract and a group of refugee Skrulls to an orbiting space lab above Earth to shelter them from the Kree. Hank Pym resigns from S.H.I.E.L.D. In a flight test gone wrong, Carol Danvers is shot down by Kree soldiers and absorbs the Tesseract energy from her engine after it explodes. With her new powers and missing memories, she is taken in by the Kree. Peter Quill tries to celebrate Christmas, and though Yondu initially rejects the idea of gift-giving, he changes his heart and gives Peter a pair of blasters. The X-Men reveal themselves to the world to rescue Jubilee from Sentinels, though during their first public mission, Morph is presumed dead and left behind. Howard and Maria Stark are killed by the Winter Soldier. In the aftermath, Obadiah Stane is appointed CEO of Stark Industries temporarily until Tony Stark becomes CEO. A branch forms when Red Guardian refuses his mission to take care of Natasha and Yelena, instead going to interfere with the Winter Soldier's mission to kill Howard and Maria Stark. Alexei and Bucky end up on the run from Bill Foster and S.H.I.E.L.D. Eventually, they end up cornered, and Bucky breaks his brainwashing to let Alexei go free and start a new life. T'Chaka confronts his brother Njobu over his treachery and ends up killing him. Njobu's son, Njidaka, is left behind, not given the chance to go to Wakanda. Morph returns under the control of Mr. Sinister. The X-Men track down Mr. Sinister to the Savage Land and rescue Professor X and Magneto. Matt Murdock is injured and loses his sight. Tensions rise between humans and mutants as a Mutant Registration Act is proposed. After discovering her mutant powers, Rogue flees, finding Wolverine, and the two end up uniting with Professor X. Wolverine joins the X-Men against Magneto and his Brotherhood. Magneto is sent to a plastic prison, and Wolverine goes to be on his own. Though, not long after, the X-Men work together to stop Stryker from using a rebuilt Cerebro and mind control serum to force Xavier to kill mutants on a mass scale. Magneto interferes, making Charles target humans instead, but the X-Men step in to free Charles. Unfortunately, in their attempt to escape, Jean is forced to seemingly sacrifice herself, unleashing a dormant side of her mind, revealing the true extent of her powers. Jean Grey encounters the Phoenix Force and sacrifices herself to destroy the M'Kraan crystal, saving the universe. Matt Murdock's father is killed after refusing to throw a boxing match. Matt begins training with Stick to use his blindness to his advantage. After finding Jean alive, the X-Men once more contend with the Phoenix, which has now become the Dark Phoenix. Jean is able to overcome the Phoenix's power, but dies as she releases the Phoenix. Fortunately, the X-Men give up parts of their life force to bring her back. Spider-Man, while dealing with an unnatural mutation, crosses paths with the Sinister Six, X-Men, Punisher, Blade, Morbius, and more to find a cure. Magneto creates Asteroid M to be a mutant safe haven, but a different mutant sabotages it, and Asteroid M crashes into the ocean. Carol Danvers butts head with Yon-Rogg and Kree Starforce over the Kree-Skrull War. She winds up on Earth, and with the help of director Nick Fury and Maria Rambeau, she uncovers the truth of who she is and unlocks her true powers. During the conflict, Nick Fury, with the help of Goose the Flurkin, obtains the Tesseract and has it contained by S.H.I.E.L.D. Carol then confronts Yon-Rogg, who winds up in a Nova prison. Carol says her goodbyes to Fury, Maria, and her daughter Monica, and begins a crusade against the Kree Empire. In the aftermath, Nick Fury drafts the Avengers Initiative, named after Carol Danvers' Air Force call sign. Shortly afterwards, Maria founded SWORD to specialize in extraterrestrial missions. After sheltering Natasha Romanoff and Yelena Belova for 3 years, Alexei Shostakov and Melina Vostokov flee from S.H.I.E.L.D. and deliver the young girls to Dreykov and the Red Room. During her crusade, Carol Danvers destroys the Kree's supreme intelligence, throwing the Kree homeworld, Hala, into complete disarray, earning her the title of Destroyer. Wenwu meets, fights, and falls in love with Ying Li and gives up the Ten Rings. After abandoning Matt Murdock, Stick briefly trains Elektra. In a battle with the Green Goblin, Mary Jane is lost in an unknown other world. After the loss of Mary Jane, Spider-Man begins crossing paths with a new hero, Black Cat. Thanos adopts Gamora after wiping out half of the people on her planet. Peter Parker seemingly reunites with Mary Jane and proposes not long after. Professor X is fatally wounded, but Magneto helps him send a psychic message to Lilandra of the Shi'ar Empire, who takes him to save his life. Peter and MJ get married, but they soon find out that she was an unstable water clone. After MJ dissipates, Madam Web and the Beyonder arrive to give Peter a test of leadership. Peter chooses a group of heroes to lead against several villains, successfully passing the test. Afterwards, he is sent to lead a team of multiversal Spider-Men to stop a Carnage-possessed Spider-Man from destroying the multiverse. Finally, as a reward, Madam Web leads Peter to find MJ. After Charles is pronounced dead to the rest of the world, Magneto inherits everything he left behind and makes an effort to live up to Charles's ideals. Though, when humanity puts Magneto on trial, the fight breaks out, leaving Storm powerless in the end. Scott and Jean have a son, though they find out Jean was a clone made by Mr. Sinister, and the clone makes her own identity as Madeline. Unfortunately, thanks to Mr. Sinister, baby Nathan Summers has to be sent to the future to save his life. Just as the mutant nation of Genosha was to be accepted into the UN, a Titanic Sentinel causes mass destruction, killing many mutants, including Gambit and seemingly Magneto. Storm is found by Forge, who helps to restore her powers and overcome her fears. The X-Men face off against Bastion, a part Sentinel technopath, and a legion of humans turn into Sentinel hybrids. Professor X returns just in time to help the X-Men stop Magneto from taking his revenge on all of humanity. After stopping Magneto and Bastion, the destruction of Asteroid M sends most of the X-Men across time. Nick Fury makes a deal with the Skrulls to find them a new home. Blade goes on a crusade against vampires as he works to avenge his mother's death. Mark Spector's mother abuses him, causing Stephen Grant's persona to form. Wanda and Pietro Maximoff's parents are killed, and Wanda unknowingly uses magic to prevent another bomb from detonating. A mutant cure is developed, prompting Magneto to gather a group of mutants to oppose it. Meanwhile, Scott discovers Jean, though is killed by the extreme side of her mind, the Phoenix. Charles and Magneto both reach out to Jean, but Charles is seemingly killed, and Jean joins Magneto. The X-Men successfully stop Magneto, but the Phoenix unleashes her powers, forcing Logan to kill Jean. Shang-Chi is born to Ying Li and Wenwu. Tony Stark meets Aldrich Killian. Jessica Jones and her family get in a car crash, leading to Jessica and her mother being experimented on. Under threat of a new vampire breed called Reapers, Blade teams up with a group of vampires to end the threat. Danny Rand's parents are killed in a plane crash, and he is discovered by monks. On a visit to Oscorp, Peter Parker meets Norman Osborn and is bitten by a radioactive spider. Peter later wakes up with spider powers. Meanwhile, Norman gives himself a serum that creates an alter ego, the Green Goblin. Peter irresponsibly lets a criminal go, and he witnesses the death of his Uncle Ben, who teaches him the classic lesson of power and responsibility. Peter, now Spider-Man, has an encounter with the Green Goblin. Afterwards, during a Thanksgiving meal, Norman is able to figure out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, prompting the Green Goblin to attack Peter. During the battle, Goblin's glider accidentally impales himself. After the death of Norman and the Goblin, Harry Osborn blames Spider-Man for his father's death. Cassandra Webb, with the power to see the future, helps a trio of future spider heroes crush an evil spider prophet with a Pepsi sign. Daredevil works to take down the Kingpin, though along the way he has to face Bullseye, who he hospitalizes, and Elektra, who is seemingly killed by Bullseye. Later, Elektra is revived by Stick. Spider-Man has to contend with one of his scientific mentors, Dr. Octavius, after a set of mechanical arms he created corrupts his mind. In their final confrontation, Doc Ock realizes the error of his ways and sacrifices himself to destroy his miniature son. After receiving powers from a cloud of cosmic energy and space, Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, Sue Storm, and Johnny Storm battle against Victor Von Doom, who is also mutated from the Cosmic Storm, and become the Fantastic Four. After the Green Goblin reaches out to Harry Osborn and tells him that Peter is Spider-Man, Harry becomes the new Goblin and fights Peter, though he ends up with amnesia. Peter then has to deal with the Venom symbiote and Flint Marko, now the Sandman. In a final battle, Harry comes to Peter's aid, sacrificing himself to help defeat Venom, and with the knowledge that Flint Marko killed Uncle Ben, elects to forgive him. After Stick kicks her out of his training, Elektra faces off against the Hand. Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk. After his reputation is tarnished, Blade is forced to team up with a pair of vampire hunters as he continues his crusade against vampires. Ying Li is killed, prompting Wenwu to train Shang-Chi and continue wearing the 10 rings. His sister, Zhu Xialing, begins training herself as well. Rocket is experimented on by the High Evolutionary and thrown into a cage with 3 other animal experiments. Maya Lopez's mother is killed in a car crash, where she also loses her leg. The Silver Surfer arrives and gives the Fantastic Four some trouble, mainly causing their powers to switch. After the confrontation and Doctor Doom's return, Silver Surfer realizes that Earth should be spared, and he sacrifices himself to defeat Galactus. Rocket helps the High Evolutionary solve the issue with Batch 90. Natasha Romanoff joins Clint Barton on a mission in Budapest, where she is believed to have killed Dreykov and his daughter Antonia. However, Dreykov lives and Antonia is permanently scarred. Tony Stark is kidnapped by the 10 Rings, where he designs his life-sustaining miniaturized arc reactor and builds a metal suit to free himself from his captor. A branch forms as Killmonger plans to take advantage of Tony Stark to take over Wakanda. He launches a mission with the U.S. Marines to rescue Tony from the 10 Rings, earning his trust and working together to make an army of drones. After returning home, Tony upgrades the design to his suit. He battles Obadiah Stane and announces to the world that he is Iron Man. Meanwhile, Ivan Vanko's father dies, and Ivan plots revenge on Stark, working on a suit of his own. Soon after Tony's announcement, Nick Fury informs him about the Avengers Initiative. Rocket and his friends try to escape from the High Evolutionary, but Rocket's friends are killed, and Rocket escapes. T'Challa works with his new Ravagers to fight the Collector. During the mission, he finds out that his family on Earth was looking for him, and eventually returns to Wakanda, uniting his family and new friends. Killmonger betrays and kills T'Challa, Rhodey, and Tony Stark to further his plan. Killmonger uses the Stark drones to facilitate a war between America and Wakanda. Killmonger arrives in Wakanda, quickly seizing the throne entitled the Black Panther by helping take down the Stark drones. Natasha Romanoff encounters the Winter Soldier in Odessa, Ukraine. In a branch where Hope Van Dyne joins S.H.I.E.L.D., Hope is killed on the Odessa mission, leading Hank Pym to seek revenge on Nick Fury. Kang the Conqueror is banished to the Quantum Realm and is found by Janet Van Dyne. Anton Vanko, now Whiplash, and Justin Hammer both oppose Tony Stark. Meanwhile, Natasha Romanoff goes undercover to evaluate Iron Man for the Avengers Initiative. Fury and Romanoff meet with Tony Stark to discuss his place in the Avengers and help him recover from the poisoning brought on by his arc reactor. During their meeting, Hank Pym kills Tony Stark, leading Natasha to investigate. Whiplash unleashes a legion of drones made by Justin Hammer. Iron Man, War Machine, and Black Widow work together to defeat Whiplash and save a young Peter Parker. A branch forms with Justin Hammer plotting to escape prison and taking revenge on Tony Stark. Meanwhile, on Asgard, frost giants break into Odin's treasure room. Thor takes Loki, Sif, and the Warriors 3 to retaliate. Odin stops their fighting and banishes Thor for his actions. Thor is found on Earth by Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis. Phil Coulson stops a gas station robbery. S.H.I.E.L.D. discovers Mjolnir and sets up a quarantine. Odin reveals Loki's adoption, then enters Odin's sleep, leaving Loki to take over. Thor breaks his way in, with Hawkeye targeting him. When Thor is unable to lift Mjolnir, he is captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. While in custody, Loki tells Thor that Odin is dead, then Eric Selvig gets Thor released. While Hawkeye targets Thor, Hank Pym causes him to shoot, killing Thor. Hawkeye is put in a cell where Hank quickly kills him too. Learning of Thor's death, Loki arrives to retaliate against Earth. Fury negotiates to bring in Thor's true killer. When Odin enters the Odin sleep, Frigga leaves, giving Thor the chance to throw a party on Earth. During Thor's party, Nick Fury is wounded, leading Maria Hill to call in Captain Marvel. Carol fights Thor, but Jane Foster finds a way to contact Frigga, forcing Thor to clean up his mess. In the aftermath, Earth technology advances to space level. Loki sends the Destroyer to fight Thor and his friends. During the battle, Thor regains his worthiness and defeats the Destroyer. Thor returns to Asgard to stop Loki. During their fight, the Rainbow Bridge is damaged, and Loki ends up lost in space, presumed dead. Emil Blonsky is given a serum derived from the Super Soldier Serum, and joins Thaddeus Ross to track down the Hulk. During the ensuing battle, Blonsky is severely injured, leading him to eventually transform into the Abomination. At the start of Ross's encounter with the Hulk, Hank kills Hulk from the inside. Banner meets with Samuel Stearns to attempt to cure the Hulk. The Hulk breaks out, injuring Stearns and infecting him with the Gamma Blood, giving him super intelligence. Hulk and Abomination then fight on the streets of Harlem, and Hulk comes out victorious. Fury and Natasha work together to find out that Hank Pym was behind the Avengers' murders, but Natasha is soon killed by Hank. Fury works with Loki to defeat Hank, but after his capture, Loki decides to conquer Earth. With no other options left, Nick Fury calls Carol Danvers, and she arrives as he uncovers Steve Rogers. Tony Stark is sent as a consultant to prevent Abomination from being framed as a hero. Matt Murdock meets Foggy Nelson during law school. Steve Rogers is recovered from the ice and is introduced to the modern day by Nick Fury. Nick Fury uses the Tesseract, bringing Captain Carter to the present. After finding Loki drifting through space, Thanos lends him the Mind Stone and his Chitauri army to take over Earth. Loki arrives on Earth and attacks a S.H.I.E.L.D. base. Nick Fury responds by enacting the Avenger Initiative, assembling Iron Man, Captain America, Bruce Banner, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye to ultimately take down Loki. During the battle, a young Kate Bishop watches Hawkeye, though her father ends up being killed. Tony Stark ends the battle by redirecting a nuclear missile into the Chitauri mothership. Footnote, a nearly identical sequence of events leading to the Battle of New York occurs on Earth 13122, but in LEGO. A branch forms with Tony getting stuck in space after blowing up the Chitauri ship. After the battle, Loki's scepter with the Mind Stone ends up in the hands of Hydra, pretending to be S.H.I.E.L.D., and Loki and the Tesseract are brought with Thor back to Asgard. The Department of Damage Control takes over the cleanup for the Battle of New York, but Adrian Toomes' previous cleanup crew steals some of the Chitauri tech. Tony Stark arrives on Sakaar and is forced to compete in a race. There, he encounters Gamora and convinces her to oppose Thanos. The two work with Valkyrie and Korg to escape from the Grandmaster, then go on to kill Thanos. Scott Lang is arrested and meets Luis in prison. Janet and Kang repair the core for Kang's timeshare, but Janet sabotages it after learning his true intentions. After getting bitten by a radioactive spider at Oscorp and learning the power responsibility lesson from a dying Uncle Ben, Peter Parker takes on the identity of Spider-Man and gets close with Gwen Stacy, who he shares this with. Meanwhile, Dr. Connors experiments with lizard DNA to regrow his lost arm, though it ultimately turns him into the lizard, who Peter has to battle against. The Silver Surfer arrives on Earth, leading Galactus to his next meal. Dr. Doom ambushes the Surfer, shattering his board. Heroes and villains all work together to collect the pieces of his board. The heroes and villains clash before ultimately working together to stop Loki and Galactus. After Loki disappears with Galactus, he takes control of many villains, which the Avengers work together to defeat, and they eventually bring down Loki. Malekith attempts to use the convergence to shroud the universe in darkness. Jane Foster ends up possessed by the Reality Stone in the form of the Ether. Frigga is killed, Loki fakes his death again, Thor interrupts the convergence, defeats Malekith, and the Reality Stone is sold to the Collector. Darcy and Howard the Duck have a baby during the convergence. Threats from across the galaxy come to steal the egg containing Darcy and Howard's baby, but they manage to escape long enough for her to hatch, and they name her Birdie. While dealing with the trauma of killing Jean, Logan spends time on his own and ends up battling the Silver Samurai. While dealing with trauma from the Battle of New York, Tony Stark is threatened by someone impersonating Wenwu, going by the Mandarin. Though this fake Mandarin, Trevor Slattery, was hired by Aldrich Killian, who Iron Man eventually defeats. Tony then gets a surgery, allowing him to remove his arc reactor, and later recounts these events to Bruce Banner. Hydra puts Wanda and Pietro Maximoff through experiments with the Mind Stone, which awakens their powers. Carl Lucas undergoes an experiment that gives him impenetrable skin, letting him escape from jail, later going by Luke Cage. Trevor Slattery, while in prison, is taken by the Ten Rings for impersonating Wenwu. Hydra weaponizes Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier against Steve Rogers. With the help of Natasha Romanoff and Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, Steve gets Bucky to remember himself and they take down Hydra, though S.H.I.E.L.D. is taken down with them. Captain Carter and Natasha Romanoff discover and awaken Steve Rogers, who is being kept alive within the Hydra Stomper and controlled by the Red Room. The two eventually free Steve from his mind control, but he sacrifices himself to take down the Red Room. After the mission, Peggy suddenly disappears in front of Natasha, being dragged into another timeline. In a timeline branch, Sam Wilson becomes friends with Bruce Banner, but feeling embarrassed about turning into the Hulk, Banner tries to get rid of the Hulk. Unfortunately, Banner's experiment goes wrong, and he unleashes an army of Gamma Beasts, which the Avengers construct mechs in order to battle. Unfortunately, most of the original Avengers are killed, and new heroes have to step up to save the day. Shang-Chi is sent on his first mission, but abandons his father and begins a new life in America. Ronan the Accuser betrays Thanos, destroying his forces, leaving only Nebula to survive. Nebula is recruited by the Nova Corps and swears by their sacred oath. Peter Quill unites with Rocket, Groot, Drax, and Gamora to stop Ronan the Accuser from using the Power Stone from wiping out Xandar. Though, during the battle, Groot sacrifices himself and a new Groot sprouts from one of his branches. After Ronan's defeat, they leave the Power Stone in the protection of the Nova Corps and become the Guardians of the Galaxy. During Ronan's attack, Nova Prime covers Xandar in a planetary shield, leaving no way in or out of the planet. Spider-Man faces off against Max Dillon after he becomes Electro. Meanwhile, Peter reunites with Harry Osborn, who tries to get Peter's help to get Spider-Man's blood to cure a condition that killed his father. Spider-Man confronts Electro and ultimately defeats him. Unfortunately, Harry arrives as the Green Goblin, and taking his revenge upon Peter, kills Gwen Stacy, leading Peter to give up being Spider-Man as he mourns her. The Guardians of the Galaxy are hired by the Sovereign to protect their Anthrax batteries, but Rocket steals them after their mission, causing the Sovereign to try to chase down the Guardians. However, the team is saved by Ego, who learned of them after they saved Xandar. While Ego reveals that he is Peter's father, and evil, Yondu, Rocket, and Baby Groot take out most of the Ravagers, then reunite with the Guardians just in time to stop Ego. They successfully kill Ego, though Yondu dies while they try to escape. Meanwhile, High Priestess Aisha of the Sovereign begins creating Adam Warlock to take down the Guardians. On Christmas Eve, Justin Hammer infiltrates Avengers Tower, and in the absence of most of the Avengers, Happy Hogan takes initiative to stop him. During the conflict, Happy accidentally gets a dose of Hulk's blood, turning him into a Hulk-like beast, the Freak. Happy fights off Justin Hammer and the Hulkbuster armor until the Avengers return, allowing them all to celebrate Christmas. Matt Murdock takes the identity of Daredevil as he fights against Kingpin, sending him to jail. Jessica Jones crosses paths with Luke Cage and battles Kilgrave, eventually killing him. Frank Castle's family is killed, leading him to become the Punisher. Footnote: the following events with Ultron also occur on Earth 131-22. The Avengers attack a Hydra base where Loki's scepter is being held. During the battle, they encounter Wanda and Pietro, but they manage to escape. Upon returning, Tony and Bruce use the Mind Stone within the scepter to develop Ultron. Unfortunately, Ultron comes to believe that humanity needs to be eradicated. He attacks Jarvis and the Avengers. Ultron manages to escape with Loki's scepter, beginning his plan to make a perfect body. Ultron then recruits Wanda and Pietro to help him find the vibranium for his new body, which he gets from Ulysses' claw. However, after seeing Ultron's vision for this body, Wanda and Pietro leave Ultron and join the Avengers. The Avengers manage to retrieve Ultron's new body, and Thor completes the process to bring Vision to life. Though, in a new branch, the Avengers fail to retrieve Ultron's new body, and Ultron uses it to defeat the Avengers and wipe out humanity, though Natasha and Clint manage to survive. Afterwards, the Avengers fight Ultron at the Battle of Sokovia, where Ultron lifts the city into the sky, forcing the Avengers to decimate the entire city to save the world from extinction. Ultron is beaten, but not before Pietro dies and Hulk flees into space, where he will then build a car. After the battle, the Avengers move from Avengers Tower to the Avengers compound. With his victory over the Avengers, Ultron waits until Thanos arrives to collect the Mind Stone. Ultron takes the other Infinity Stones for himself and proceeds to wipe out life through the universe. Meanwhile, on Earth, Natasha and Clint find Arnim Zola's digital mind, and Hawkeye sacrifices himself to let Natasha escape, with the only hope of stopping her. Scott Lang is released from prison and is coerced by Luis into doing one more robbery, where he ends up stealing the Ant-Man suit. Scott is then recruited by Hank Pym to become Ant-Man and defeat Darren Cross as Yellow Jacket. Footnote here, since your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man doesn't have a canon universe number, we're going to be using the Wiki's temporary reality number, 122. On Peter Parker's first day of school at Midtown High, Doctor Strange enters a time portal fighting a symbiote. During the fight, a spider falls through, biting Peter and giving him spider powers. Another version of the Fantastic Four battle Doctor Doom. Ultron plans his revenge, recruiting Yellow Jacket to help fight the Avengers. Ant-Man helps the Avengers defeat Ultron once more. Matt Murdock crosses paths with Frank Castle, who ends up in prison where he meets Kingpin, then escapes prison. Matt later reunites with Elektra and battles a group of evil ninjas called the Hand, where Elektra sacrifices herself. Luke Cage winds up in a conflict against his brother, but afterwards is sent back to jail for having escaped. Caecilius steals a page from the Book of Cagliostro, containing a spell to bring Dormammu into this dimension. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange ends up in a car crash that permanently damages his hands. In a branch, Doctor Strange loses Christine Palmer in a car crash instead of damaging his hands. After returning from Kunlun, Danny Rand faces off against the Hand, becoming the new Iron Fist. Peter Parker, now Spider-Man, is recruited for an internship by Norman Osborn, who quickly finds out Peter's identity. Peter encounters several villains with tech provided by Doc Ock, primarily Mac Gargan, leader of the Scorpion Gang. Meanwhile, Peter's classmate, Lonnie Lincoln, winds up getting involved with another gang that is at odds with the Scorpion Gang. Spider-Man gets in the middle of a fight between the two gangs, and during the fight, Lonnie is infected by a gas that gives him rock-hard skin. With his transformation, he helps Peter put a stop to the Scorpion. Later, Norman uses the tech made by his new interns to open a portal to space, which lets a symbiote monster through. Fortunately, Doctor Strange arrives to stop it, though he opens a portal which is affected by his time stone, letting him and the symbiote through, along with a spider made from Peter's enhanced blood. Peter and Doctor Strange work together to defeat the symbiote monster. Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones join forces to fight the Hand and the resurrected Elektra. Some of the Avengers go on a mission in Lagos looking for Bucky. Unfortunately, the mission goes awry and Wanda causes an explosion to damage a building and kill many innocent people. Meanwhile, Tony Stark gives a presentation of BARF technology developed by Quentin Beck, who Tony fires after being confronted by Beck about the name. After much searching, Doctor Strange is welcomed to Kamar-Taj by Mordo and the Ancient One, who agree to teach him sorcery to help his hands. Yelena Belova is freed from Dreykov's mind control by another rogue Black Widow. After noticing this, Taskmaster is sent after her. The Sokovia Accords are shown to the Avengers. Some, including Tony Stark, sign it. Others, including Steve Rogers, don't, and they end up on the run from the government. A United Nations meeting is bombed and blamed on the Winter Soldier, causing the death of King T'Chaka of Wakanda. His son, T'Challa, begins chasing down Bucky to avenge his father. T'Challa joins Team Iron Man. The two sides of the Avengers clash at an airport, where Tony Stark has recruited Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, and Team Cap recruited Scott Lang. Ultimately, Steve and Bucky escape, and Rhodey is severely injured. Tony chases down Steve and Bucky, where it is revealed that the Winter Soldier killed Tony's parents. Tony lashes out against them, but ultimately loses. Steve leaves his shield to Tony as he departs with Bucky. Meanwhile, T'Challa confronts Zemo, who is the one responsible for his father's death, and sends him to prison. T'Challa then finds Steve and Bucky and offers Wakandan aid to Bucky, though Steve and the rest of Team Cap are imprisoned in the raft. Natasha, now on the run for betraying Team Iron Man, unites with her sister Yelena, though they are chased by Taskmaster, who is there to retrieve the antidote for Dreykov's mind control. Natasha and Yelena break their adoptive father Alexei out of prison, then track down their adoptive mother Melina. Together, they take down Dreykov and the Red Room for good. Afterwards, the four go their separate ways. Natasha leaves to free the heroes locked up at the raft, and Yelena begins a mission to free the Black Widows still under mind control. After Natasha frees Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson, Scott Lang and Clint Barton are put on house arrest, and Wanda flees with Vision. T'Challa is crowned King of Wakanda after beating M'Baku in a challenge. Njobu, going by the moniker Killmonger, executes a plan to find Wakanda and take the throne. He defeats T'Challa, seemingly killing him, and temporarily divides Wakanda under his rule. Fortunately, T'Challa returns to fight Killmonger, who dies as he watches the Wakandan sunrise. T'Challa, however, inspired by Killmonger's ideology, opens an embassy to share Wakanda's knowledge with the world. Peter Parker, trying to step up as a hero, tries to fight Adrian Toomes, now the Vulture. He acts recklessly and is reprimanded by Tony Stark before coming home and accidentally revealing his identity to his best friend, Ned Leeds. Against Tony's judgment, Peter and Ned keep working to find Vulture, leading Tony to take Peter's new suit away. However, Peter, still feeling responsible to stop Vulture, goes after him in his homemade suit. Adrian Toomes is sent to prison, and Tony offers Peter a spot on the Avengers, which he declines. Tony, now needing something to announce to the press, proposes to Pepper Potts. Frank Castle rampages as the Punisher as he tracks down his family's killer. Doctor Strange discovers the Eye of Agamotto, where he learns to use the Time Stone. Doctor Strange later witnesses the destruction of the London Sanctum and, with the help of the Cloak of Levitation, defends the New York Sanctum from destruction. Doctor Strange, now the guardian of the New York Sanctum, defends it once again by using the Mirror Dimension. Unfortunately, the Ancient One is fatally wounded after the fight, and in her last moments, Astral projects to tell Steven she knew of her fate, and to warn him about Dormammu. Doctor Strange and other sorcerers prepare to defend the Hong Kong Sanctum, but arrive too late. With its destruction, the Dark Dimension begins to arrive, but Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to begin rewinding everything. He then flies into the Dark Dimension, where he confronts Dormammu, trapping them in a time loop and bargaining for his world's freedom. Jessica Jones is caught in a conflict between her mother and her friend Trish, who kills Jessica's mom. Luke Cage has to face Bushmaster, and ends up becoming a crime boss. Danny Rand continues protecting people as the Iron Fist, and bumps head with a few others that gain Iron Fist powers. After finding his way out of jail, Kingpin begins working with Ben Poindexter, aka Bullseye, and battles Daredevil, though is ultimately sent back to jail. King the Conqueror rips apart space and time to create Chronopolis, which he intends to rule all on his own. The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and other heroes work together to defeat Kang and restore time and space. Not long after, the Guardians of the Galaxy battle against Thanos and Ronan as they try to take advantage of the Build Stone, this Earth's Reality Stone. Thor, after years of searching for other Infinity Stones, battles Surtur, defeating him and taking his crown back to Asgard. There, he discovers Loki was posing as Odin while he was gone, and with Doctor Strange's help, they are able to find Odin in Norway just before he dies. With Odin gone, Hela is able to break free of her imprisonment, where she quickly shatters Mjolnir. Thor calls for the Bifrost, where Hela follows him and Loki, causing them to be separated. Hela arrives on Asgard and declares her rule. Then Loki arrives on Sakaar, where he meets the Grandmaster, and Thor arrives some weeks later, where he is entered as a fighter in the Contest of Champions. Thor meets Valkyrie, Korg, and Meek, and reunites with the Hulk. Together, they escape Sakaar and fight Hela on Asgard. However, they realize they cannot defeat Hela on their own. Thor distracts Hela while Loki reveals Surtur using his helmet and grabs the Tesseract. While the Asgardians escape, Surtur kills Hela and destroys Asgard. Even so, Thor is named the King of Asgard's people. Bucky is finally cured of his brainwashing in Wakanda. Doctor Strange, still mourning Christine, uses the Time Stone to go back in time and hopes to bring her back. After many failures, the Ancient One projects herself to stop him, splitting his timeline in hopes that his rational side will defeat his extreme side. Strange's extreme side goes back in time to attain more power by absorbing mythical creatures, then returns to the present to reclaim his other half while the universe is falling apart. After he does, he brings Christine back to life, though it is in vain as the universe begins to collapse around him. Strange calls out to the Watcher, who he can see observing him, though the Watcher upholds his vow not to interfere and leaves Strange to be alone in the universe that he destroyed. The Watcher continues narrating many of the stories throughout the multiverse. He eventually observes the Infinity Ultron branch, but due to the emptiness of the universe, Ultron hears the Watcher's narration, fighting the Watcher and trying to wipe out life in every universe. The Watcher, having no other choice, breaks his oath to recruit Doctor Strange and the other multiverse heroes to form the Guardians of the Multiverse to defeat Ultron. Together, they get Arnim Zola's virus to take over Ultron's program, allowing Strange Supreme to place Ultron and Killmonger into a pocket dimension. Afterwards, the team returns to their homes, and the Watcher sends the surviving Natasha to the timeline where Hank Pym have killed the Avengers. Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne work on a quantum tunnel in an attempt to rescue Janet from the quantum realm. Upon activating it, Janet is able to communicate through Scott Lang's dream, leading him to contact Hope. Frank Castle returns to being the Punisher to protect the young girl. Jessica Jones reunites with Trish, but is forced to fight her when Trish becomes too extreme. Hank and Hope work with Scott to rescue Janet and avoid his house arrest while being chased by the FBI, Sonny Birch, and Ava Starr, aka Ghost. They manage to activate the quantum tunnel, letting Hank Pym go into the quantum realm and rescue Janet. Upon her return, she is able to use quantum energy to heal Ava Starr's condition. When Hank reunites with Janet in the quantum realm, he encounters her with the zombie virus, and upon their return they spread it to Earth. Thanos, after years of waiting, executes his plan to gather the Infinity Stones. He first massacres Xandar, retrieving the Power Stone. Thanos then attacks the remaining Asgardians and beats Hulk. Heimdall summons the Bifrost to send Hulk to Earth. Thanos then kills Heimdall and Loki after an attempted betrayal and retrieves the Space Stone from the Tesseract. He then sends his Black Order to Earth. Bruce Banner arrives to warn Doctor Strange about Thanos. Ebony Maw and Whole Obsidian battle Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Wong, Spider-Man, and Bruce Banner, and they're taken on a ship headed towards Thanos' homeworld, Titan. Upon his arrival, Bruce discovers the zombie apocalypse and is rescued by Spider-Man, Wasp, Bucky, and a few others. The survivors work together to find Vision at Camp Lehigh. They also find Scott Lang's cured head, T'Challa, and the zombified Wanda. As they work to escape, Vision removes the Mind Stone to pay retribution for his actions, hoping the remaining survivors to use it as a cure. Ultimately, only Peter, T'Challa, and Scott Lang's head make it out alive, where they make their way to Wakanda to try to use the Mind Stone to cure everyone. Thor encounters the Guardians of the Galaxy, Rocket, and Groot join in to forge a new weapon on Nidavellir, and the rest go to find Thanos on Nowhere. Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive attack Wanda and Vision to get the Mind Stone, but Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, and Natasha Romanoff show up and ward them off. Meanwhile, Thanos goes after the Collector for the Reality Stone. There, he captures Gamora to learn the location of the Soul Stone. The heroes with Vision find Bruce Banner and head to Wakanda in hopes of safely removing the Mind Stone so Wanda can destroy it. On the way to Titan, Iron Man and Spider-Man take out Ebony Maw and save Doctor Strange. Then they prepare to encounter Thanos. Thanos forces Gamora to reveal the location of the Soul Stone. Together they go to Vormir, where they meet Red Skull, and Thanos is forced to sacrifice Gamora to retrieve the Soul Stone. The heroes on Earth defend Wakanda against Thanos' Outrider army. Thor, Rocket, and Groot on Nidavellir work together to forge Stormbreaker. Groot uses his arm to complete the handle, and the trio arrive in Wakanda to help. The Guardians of the Galaxy meet the heroes that landed on Titan. Doctor Strange takes the time to look into the future and see what it will take to beat Thanos. Thanos arrives, and the heroes fight. During the fight, Iron Man is wounded, and Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone. Thanos then arrives in Wakanda, where the heroes try to hold him off while he approaches Vision for the Mind Stone. A timeline branch forms when, while trying to hold off Thanos, Steve Rogers strikes the Time Stone, fusing the present with the year 1602. To add on to the medieval chaos, rifts begin forming, causing the timeline to deteriorate. Wanda Maximoff summons Captain Carter to help, and she is determined to, despite the Watcher claiming it's hopeless. They eventually discover that Steve Rogers is at the center of everything, and though she is sad to say goodbye to him, she does and restores that universe. Carter, now stuck in the past, is found by Strange Supreme, who asks for her help in capturing Kahori. Kahori reveals the truth to Carter, and the two battle the corrupted Doctor Strange. Eventually, Strange sacrifices himself, creating a new universe where Christine lives, but he doesn't exist. Wanda is forced to sacrifice Vision, but it is all in vain as Thanos undoes it with the Time Stone. Thor makes one last attempt to kill Thanos before he snaps, and fails, and Thanos completes his mission. Thanos leaves, retiring to a farm on a distant planet. Hawkeye's entire family disappears, leading him to go on the run as the Ronin vigilante. Hank, Janet, and Hope disappear, trapping Scott Lang in the quantum realm. Yelena disappears on a mission to rescue another Black Widow. Monica Rambeau disappears while waiting for her mom, Maria, to be cleared from the hospital. Nick Fury, as he is disappearing, sends a message to Carol Danvers. She arrives only to find Fury gone. Thanos uses the stones one more time to atomize them so they can never be used again. Carol Danvers rescues Tony Stark and Nebula in space, reuniting them with the remaining Avengers. Several of the heroes track down Thanos, and Thor kills him after discovering the fate of the stones. Thanos attacks the Avengers and Black Panther, though he is swiftly defeated. He is found by Killmonger, and the pair team up to conquer Wakanda and take control of the Vibranium. Fortunately, Black Panther and the Avengers manage to defeat them again. Nakia leaves for Haiti, where she plans to raise her and T'Challa's child. Several symbiotes arrive on Earth in a shuttle crash. Kingpin nearly finishes work on a collider that he plans to use to reunite with a version of his family. A test of this collider brings a radioactive spider from Earth 42, which eventually finds its way to Miles Morales. Kingpin activates the collider, but Spider-Man arrives to stop him. Unfortunately, Peter is sidetracked by the arrival of Miles, who he senses to be another Spider-Person. Peter is injured, giving Kingpin the chance to kill him, though not long after, the collider brings several other Spider heroes to Earth 1610. With mentorship from the other Spider-Men, Miles becomes his own Spider-Man, helping the other Spider-Men to return home, and stopping Kingpin. Though, during the collider's destruction, one of the scientists is transformed into the Spot. In the aftermath, Miguel O'Hara begins recruiting Spider-People from across the multiverse to deal with villains appearing in the wrong universes. Eddie Brock is found by the Venom symbiote, and the pair go on a journey to stop the Riot symbiote from bringing an army of symbiotes to conquer Earth. During the fight, Eddie dies, but Venom revives him, forming a codex. Fortunately, they successfully stop Riot's plan. Tony and Pepper have a daughter, Morgan. Michael Morbius gains vampiric powers in his attempt to cure his condition. He battles his childhood friend, who wants to use that power for harm. After the murder of Yondu, Nebula uncovers Nova Prime's plan to open Xandar's planetary shield to let Ronan in. She gathers a team and defeats Nova Prime and Ronan. Bruce Banner successfully merges his Hulk body with his own mind. Gwen Stacy faces a variant of the Vulture invading thanks to Kingpin's collider. Miguel and Jessica Drew arrive to help, but in the aftermath, Gwen's identity is revealed to her father, and she is recruited by Miguel to avoid confronting him. Miles encounters the Spot, and ultimately manages to whip him up. Though, after getting distracted by Gwen, who is sent to observe Spot, the two accidentally give him the chance to escape and discover he can traverse the multiverse. The Spot peeks into a few universes, and Earth 13122's Peter Parker lets Miguel know what's going on.
Miles and Gwen track down Spot to Earth 50101, where they unite with Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk. Though unfortunately, in the chaos, Miles' noble efforts cause them to prevent a canon event, jeopardizing Earth 50101's survival.
Miles and company are brought to Earth 928, where Miguel tells him the truth about what the Spider Society does, including their intent to let Miles' father die, as dictated by canon events. Miles breaks free, and after being chased by the Spider Society, flees into the universe corresponding to his DNA, Earth 42. There he finds his variant, who is the Prowler of Earth 42. While Miles is trapped, Gwen works to gather a team of spider heroes to save Miles and hopefully put an end to Spot's plan. Maria Rambeau passes away from cancer. Eddie Brock interviews Cletus Cassidy, though in frustration, Venom attacks Cletus, spawning Carnage. Carnage breaks out with his sadistic girlfriend Shriek, and Eddie and Venom work together to stop their rampage. Eddie and Venom, now on the run in Mexico, are temporarily transported to Earth 616. Upon their return, they are chased by xenophages sent by Null, the god of symbiotes, in hopes to take the codex they formed to free himself from his void prison. Eventually, they make it to Area 51, where Venom sacrifices himself to destroy the codex and let Eddie be free. Clint Barton, as the Ronin, kills Maya Lopez's father. Under Kingpin's mentorship, Maya has a run-in with Daredevil. Mark Spector is killed and is brought back to life by Khonshu to serve as his avatar, Moon Knight. Kraven the Hunter does some hunting, fights the Rhino, and hunts down his father. An army of Sentinels hunt down the remaining X-Men, forcing Wolverine to be sent back in time to prevent Mystique from killing Trask. Though unfortunately, Magneto incapacitates Logan, leading him to miss out on most of the new timeline. Apocalypse is reawakened, and the X-Men work together to defeat him. On a mission to rescue some astronauts, the Phoenix Force possesses Jean Grey, awakening the full extent of her powers and accidentally causing the death of Mystique. A race of shape-shifting aliens seek out Jean in an attempt to control the Phoenix. After discovering that the aliens want to use the Phoenix's power for evil, the X-Men work to protect Jean long enough for her to accept her power and defeat the aliens, though she sacrifices herself by flying into space, unleashing the Phoenix Force. After being diagnosed with cancer, mercenary Wade Wilson volunteers for an experimental treatment that, though it is torturous, unlocks healing abilities. Afterward, Wade takes the moniker of Deadpool to track down the man who put him through that torture. With the help of Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Deadpool finds and kills him, and reunites with his girlfriend, Vanessa. A young group of mutants work together to escape from a facility training them to be soldiers controlled by Essex Corps. After Vanessa is accidentally killed, Deadpool is recruited by the X-Men. During his first mission, he encounters a young mutant with fire powers and works to protect him from Cable, who is coming from the future to kill him. Afterwards, Deadpool uses Cable's time travel device to save Vanessa and X-Force.
After a wake-up call from Vanessa to try to be heroic, Deadpool uses Cable's time travel device to interview for Earth 616's Avengers. Happy rejects him from the team, and Deadpool returns home only for Vanessa to leave him.
Logan reunites with Charles, Jean, and the rest of the X-Men back in the present. The Collector begins gathering characters with red in their name, and the Avengers work together to free them from the Collector's collection. Scott Lang is accidentally freed from the Quantum Realm and meets the remaining Avengers to form a plan. After getting Clint Barton, Tony Stark, and Thor to return to the team, they create a quantum tunnel and form a plan to find the Infinity Stones back in time. Tony, Steve, Hulk, and Scott go to the Battle of New York and retrieve the Mind and Time Stones, but thanks to Loki stealing the Tesseract, Tony and Steve take a detour to 1970 for the Space Stone. Thor and Rocket go to Asgard 2013 to retrieve the Reality Stone and Mjolnir. Rhodey and Nebula go to Morag 2014 to get the Power Stone before Star-Lord stole it in the past. They obtain it, but Nebula is found by past Thanos before she is able to return to the present. 2014, Thanos sends 2014 Nebula to the past to sabotage the Avengers. Natasha and Clint go to Vormir in 2014 to get the Soul Stone, though Natasha has to sacrifice herself to allow Clint to leave with it. As the heroes return to the present, Tony develops a gauntlet that allows Hulk to snap everyone back. Unfortunately, 2014 Nebula's sabotage allows Thanos and his army to arrive. As the recently revived heroes arrive, everyone fights in the Battle of Earth, where Tony Stark sacrifices himself by using the Infinity Stones to snap away Thanos and his forces. After the battle, Nick Fury sends a team of Skrulls to gather DNA from every hero. After Tony's funeral, Thor leaves with the Guardians of the Galaxy, naming Valkyrie King of New Asgard. Steve is sent back in time to return the stones and Mjolnir, though he decides to stay back in time and live a life with Peggy Carter. When he reaches the present, he gives his shield to Sam Wilson to carry on the title of Captain America. Wanda, still grief-stricken over Vision, visits Sword to see the dissection of his body. Afterwards, she goes to Westview, New Jersey, where she finds an unfinished home that Vision intended for the two of them. Overwhelmed by grief, she creates the Hex, forcing everyone in Westview to play typical sitcom rules while she lives a life with a fake Vision. Sensing this huge feat of magic, knowing it to be the Scarlet Witch, Agatha Harkness arrives in Westview, taking the role of Agnes, the nosy neighbor. Sword partners with the FBI to find out what's going on. Monica is sent, but gets herself trapped inside the Hex. Inside the Hex, Wanda creates twin children, Billy and Tommy Maximoff, who begin aging rapidly. After their birth, Wanda kicks Monica out of the Hex. Monica, Jimmy Woo, and Darcy Lewis work to help Wanda, but Wanda continues to manipulate the Hex in retaliation. Eventually, Monica gets through, but the Hex changes her DNA, giving her powers. Wanda, losing control of her magic, is comforted by Agatha, who quickly turns on her, revealing her to be the Scarlet Witch described in the Darkhold. While Wanda fights Agatha, trying to take her power, Sword director Hayward sends the rebuilt body of Vision to kill Wanda. Hex Vision gives White Vision a crisis, and Wanda drains Agatha of her magic, trapping her in a spell and making her believe she is Agnes. Afterwards, Wanda takes down the Hex, leaving her without Vision or her children. As the Hex is being taken down, a boy named William Kaplan dies in a car crash, giving Billy Maximoff the chance to use William's body as a vessel for his soul. Now, without any family, Wanda leaves with the Darkhold, which corrupts her as she starts reading it. In the aftermath, Monica is offered to work at the Saber space station with Nick Fury. Wenwu sends the 10 rings after Shang-Chi, forcing him to tell his best friend Katie the truth of his past, leading him to reunite with his sister and father. There, they learn that Wenwu is being corrupted by the Dweller in Darkness, and with the help of Trevor Slattery, they race to Ta Lo, where they train with the residents there to fight Wenwu. After Wenwu and his 10 Rings army arrive, Shang-Chi confronts his father, eventually taking the 10 Rings for himself and using them to defeat the Dweller in Darkness. Shang-Chi and Katie return home, where Wong brings them to the Sanctum to investigate the 10 Rings. Sam Wilson gives Cap's shield to be put in a museum. but the US government gives it to John Walker, naming him Captain America. Sam Wilson's new partner, Joaquin Torres, informs Sam about a terrorist group of super soldiers called the Flag Smashers. Sam works with Bucky to fight them, and John Walker shows up, despite Sam and Bucky not wanting his help. Bucky then introduces Sam to Isaiah Bradley. As they work to stop the Flag Smashers, Sam and Bucky get the help of Sharon Carter and Zemo, and discover the scientists that recruited the super soldier serum for the Flag Smashers. John Walker also shows up and steals a vial, later taking it to become a super soldier himself. In an encounter with the Flag Smashers, John Walker's friend Lamar is killed, and Walker kills one of the other Flag Smashers in retaliation, but is caught on camera. Sam and Bucky confront John Walker, where Sam's wings are destroyed, and they take back the shield. Sam Wilson and the new Mech Avengers contend with a new wave of Gamma Beasts. Sam Wilson eventually finds Bruce Banner hiding on an island and talks him into helping. Banner takes in a huge amount of gamma energy, turning into a beast capable of defeating and taking control of the other Gamma Beasts. John Walker is stripped of his title, but quickly recruited by Val. While helping him restore his family's boat, Bucky delivers Sam a gift from Wakanda, a new suit, and he begins training with the shield. T'Challa tragically passes away from an unknown illness. Peter Parker goes on a school trip to New York with his classmates. There, he meets Talos, posing as Nick Fury, who tells him about Mysterio, who is pretending to be a hero from another universe. Peter, with the help of MJ, who discovers Peter's identity and confesses her feelings for him, figures out that Mysterio was lying to them. Peter confronts Mysterio, battles through his illusions, and wins the battle with his spider sense. Mysterio accidentally kills himself during the fight, but another former Stark employee prepares to uphold Mysterio's legacy with a fake video. This video is sent to the Daily Bugle, and is shown by J. Jonah Jameson while Spider-Man was swinging out in public with MJ. The video also revealed Peter Parker's identity, revealing him to the world and blaming him for Mysterio's death. Sam Wilson, now Captain America, battles the Flag Smashers alongside Bucky. John Walker joins the fight as well, now with a custom shield of his own. Afterwards, Val gives John Walker the moniker U.S. Agent, after he formally agrees to work for her. Matt Murdock works to clear the charges against Peter, though most of the public is still against him. Jennifer Walters gets into a car accident with her cousin Bruce Banner and is infected with his gamma blood. Bruce works with Jen to manage her new Hulk side. A damage control worker is tricked into releasing the Regal Practical Duster, or Galactus, a real-world vacuum. When this Galactus sucks up most of the heroes, the damage control worker becomes Demolition Man to stop it. Due to the future death of Wolverine, Earth 10,005 begins to decay. In response to this, the TVA arrests Deadpool. After General Paradox tells him the news, Deadpool traverses the multiverse to find a replacement Wolverine, eventually ending up with the supposed worst Wolverine. Paradox sends them to the Void, where they encounter the lost twin of Charles Xavier, Cassandra Nova, and team up with pruned variants of Blade, Elektra, Gambit, and X-23 to stop her. In their efforts to stop Paradox's Time Ripper from destroying Earth 10,005, Deadpool and Wolverine completely heal the universe, and Wolverine and X-23 join Deadpool on his timeline. Ajak and Icarus have a discussion about the emergence. After Ajak reveals she wants to spare humans instead, Icarus throws her off a cliff, letting a group of deviants that were frozen in a glacier kill her. Icarus works to reunite the other Eternals to kill the last few deviants, though after discovering the truth about the emergence, the Eternals fight against Icarus to save humanity. Together, they form a Unimind, giving Cersei enough power to turn Tiamat into pure adamantium. After being told the error of his ways, Icarus flies into the sun to take his own life. Sprite, wanting to finally be able to grow up, gets Cersei to make her human. Erisham arrives to take most of the Eternals to judge their decision to save Earth. A branch forms when the Eternals fail to prevent the emergence, leading Quentin Beck to take control of White Vision and the Iron Legion to subjugate the remaining people of Earth. Footnote here, many timeline things don't perfectly line up in this episode, and the video doesn't have time to sort it out. So, Riri Williams stands up against Mysterio, using White Vision as a new suit of armor, but inevitably fails. However, the Watcher decides to intervene, tired of seeing her always lose, and pushes her to defeat Mysterio. The Watcher, continuing to choose to intervene, observes the 1872 break, saving June Fan, allowing Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop to complete their mission. Afterwards, the Eminence Incarnate and Executioner take the Watcher and put him on trial. Discovering the Watcher has gone missing, Captain Carter, Kohori, the grown-up Birdie, and a Mjolnir-wielding variant of Storm work to find the Watcher. They are forced to get the help of another Infinity Ultron variant to reach the 5th dimension, where they all help the Watcher fight off the Eminence Incarnate and Executioner. Captain Carter ends up sacrificing herself to send them all into the universe that was reborn by Strange Supreme, where Strange has complete control and is able to strip the Eminence Incarnate and Executioner of their powers.
Peter, Ned, and MJ receive rejection letters from MIT for their associations with Spider-Man. In desperation, Peter visits Doctor Strange, who agrees to cast a memory spell. Unfortunately, Peter interrupts the spell, causing Peter Parker, Norman Osborn, Dr. Octavius, and Flint Marko from Earth 96283, Peter Parker, Dr. Connors, and Max Dillon from Earth 120703, and Eddie Brock from Earth 688 to arrive on Earth 616.
Doctor Strange gives Peter a spell to capture the villains, but after learning of their fates on their homeworlds, Peter works against Doctor Strange to heal each of their conditions and save them. Peter successfully fixes Doc Ock's arms, but Green Goblin takes over Norman Osborn, killing Aunt May and allowing the other villains to escape. Ned and MJ find Earth 96283 Peter and Earth 120703 Peter and lead them to 616 Peter. Together, they work on the villains' cures and confront the villains at the Statue of Liberty. They cure each of them one by one, but Green Goblin sabotages the spell to return them home, forcing Peter to allow Doctor Strange to cast a new spell that will force everyone to forget who Peter Parker is. With all the villains cured, Peter says one last goodbye to Doctor Strange and his friends, and is left on his own. About a week later, Doctor Strange meets America Chavez and learns of her ability to travel between universes. He ends up in between her and Wanda, who is trying to steal her power to find a universe where she can live with her children. Doctor Strange and America end up on Earth 838, where they meet the Illuminati. Wanda's Darkhold is destroyed, and she forces Wong to bring her to Mount Wundagore to use the dreamwalking spell inscribed within the mountain. She dreamwalks into Earth 838 Wanda and kills the Illuminati before chasing Doctor Strange into the Gap Junction. There, Wanda destroys the Book of Vishanti, captures America, and sends Doctor Strange into a new universe. Doctor Strange encounters a variant of himself that had been corrupted by the Darkhold. They fight after killing his corrupted variant, uses the Darkhold to dreamwalk into the corpse of Defender Strange that was buried into Earth 616. Doctor Strange battles Wanda, holding her off long enough to let America get control of her powers, and opening a portal to Earth 838, showing Wanda her mistakes. Upon her realization, she crumbles Mount Wundagore on top of herself, not to be seen again. After getting his third eye from reading the Darkhold, Clea recruits him to fix an incursion. While visiting New York, Clint Barton runs into Kate Bishop, and the pair end up on the run from the Tracksuit Mafia and Maya Lopez, mistaking Kate for the Ronin vigilante. Yelena is hired by Val to kill Hawkeye, blaming him for Natasha's death. Yelena goes after Clint, and Kate holds her off long enough for Clint to reveal the truth to Yelena.
Kingpin joins the conflict, and Clint and Kate fight him off and the tracksuits on Christmas Eve. Kingpin escapes, but not before Maya shoots him in the eye.
Gore's daughter dies, and after finding the Necrosword, he vows to kill all gods. After Mark Spector's mother dies, he lets Steven take over. She-Hulk is hired to work for a superhuman law firm and defends Emil Blonsky, getting him freed from prison. Mark Spector is forced to conflict with Stephen Grant as Khonshu needs Moon Knight to battle Amit's avatar, Arthur Harrow. Mark and Stephen work together with Mark's wife, Layla, to bring Arthur Harrow to trial in front of the avatars of the Ennead. Unfortunately, Harrow was found innocent, and the avatars threaten to imprison Khonshu. On their journey to stop Harrow and Amit, Khonshu gets himself imprisoned. On their way to free him, Mark and Stephen are killed. While in the afterlife, Mark and Stephen face their past. Meanwhile, Layla frees Khonshu, and he begins battling Amit. Mark and Stephen escape the afterlife and return to defeat Harrow and Amit. Jane Foster, desperate to cure her cancer, seeks out Mjolnir in New Asgard, gaining the powers of Thor. Namor interrupts Shuri and Ramonda as they mourn T'Challa, threatening them and Wakanda if they don't bring in a scientist who made a vibranium detector, which alerted the surface to Talokan. Okoye and Shuri try to protect Riri Williams from soldiers from Talokan, but Shuri and Riri are taken. Ramonda recruits Nakia to rescue Shuri and Riri. She finds them, but after they flee, Namor retaliates against Wakanda, killing Ramonda in the process. Shuri recreates the heart-shaped herb and becomes the new Black Panther. In preparation to fight back against Namor, Riri makes a new Ironheart armor with vibranium. Wakanda battles Talokan, and Shuri manages to defeat Namor, proposing an alliance between their nations. Maya battles against Kingpin and learns of powers that come from her ancestors. After their conflict, Kingpin enters the race for the mayor of New York. Shuri leaves Wakanda, leaving M'Baku to challenge for and take the throne while she meets her nephew, T'Challa II. She-Hulk continues to defend superhumans, and even runs into Daredevil. A misogynist group called Intelligentsia plot to steal Jen Walters' blood to make their leader a Hulk. But, Editor Ryan, can we get a fourth wall past the She-Hulk ending? Then Bruce introduces Jen and her family to his son, Scar. Kamala Khan discovers Aisha's bangle, which awakens her hardlight powers. which gets the attention of Damage Control. While trying to avoid Damage Control, she encounters the Clandestines, who want the Bangle to return to their home dimension. As she defends against the Clandestines, the Bangle activates, sending Kamala back in time to rescue her grandmother during partition. Upon returning to the present, the Bangle's power kills the Clandestines, and she returns home to fight off Damage Control. Thor departs from the Guardians of the Galaxy and learns of Gorr the God Butcher. He returns to New Asgard, where he finds Jane wielding Mjolnir in a battle against Gorr's shadow monsters. During the battle, many new Asgardian children are taken. Thor, Jane, Korg, and Valkyrie go on a mission to try to rescue the kids, going to Omnipotent City to ask for the help of Zeus and many other gods. Zeus refuses them, and after a scuffle, Thor takes Zeus's thunderbolt. The team chases down Gorr, who steals Stormbreaker for its ability to use the Bifrost in an attempt to find Eternity. Thor and Jane face off against Gorr, though Jane's use of Mjolnir seals her fate. As Jane and Gorr are dying, Thor convinces Gorr to change his wish, promising to take care of his daughter when she returns to life. Riri Williams, after being expelled from MIT, joins a gang of criminals led by the Hood to fund the creation of her own iron suit. After causing the death of one of the members, the Hood sends the gang after Riri. After defending herself, Riri gets some help, both familial and magical, to fight the Hood, and meet Mephisto, who had been guiding the Hood. There, she makes a deal to bring her friend Natalie back to life. Vanessa Fisk hires Bullseye to kill Foggy Nelson, preventing him from revealing a legal loophole about Red Hook. Matt nearly kills Bullseye, and he chooses to give up being Daredevil. On Halloween night, a secret werewolf, Jack Russell, enters a monster hunting competition to free Man-Thing. There, he becomes unlikely allies with Elsa Bloodstone so he can free his friend, and Elsa can reclaim the Bloodstone left behind by her father. Mantis and Drax make a plan to cheer up Peter Quill by kidnapping Kevin Bacon. They bring him to Nowhere, which the Guardians now own, and after Kevin Bacon stops freaking out, they all celebrate Christmas together. Scott Lang, Cassie, Janet, Hank, and Hope accidentally end up in the Quantum Realm, where they meet the banished variant of King the Conqueror and defeat him with an army of ants. Nick Fury temporarily returns to Earth to prevent a group of Skrulls from starting World War III. Talos' daughter Gaia saves the day by attaining the power of every hero that fought in the Battle of Earth. Adam Warlock is sent to fight the Guardians of the Galaxy and ends up seriously wounding Rocket. To save Rocket's life, the Guardians have to face off against the High Evolutionary. They successfully save Rocket and work together to defeat the High Evolutionary and save all the animals and people he was holding captive. Afterwards, most of the Guardians go their separate ways. Peter Quill returns to his grandfather on Earth, and Rocket leads a new group of heroes to continue guarding the galaxy. An incident with the quantum bands entangled the powers of Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, and Monica Rambeau. The three of them face off against Dar-Ben as she targets planets that are important to Carol in an attempt to restore Hala. During their final face-off, Dar-Ben takes the other Bangle, but their power overwhelms her, killing her and opening a rift between Earth 616 and Earth 10005. With their entanglement broken, Monica closes the rift, but ends up trapped in Earth 10005. There, Monica is found by Hank McCoy and a variant of her mother. Billy Maximoff / William Kaplan learns about Agatha Harkness and the idea of the Witch's Road. He finds Agatha, freeing her from Wanda's spell and convincing her to gather a coven for the Witch's Road. Agatha is caught during her scheme to kill the coven and is surprised when Billy manifests a real version of the Witch's Road beneath Agatha's basement. As they traverse the road, most of the coven members end up killed, leaving only Agatha and Billy. In the final trial, Agatha helps Billy find a vessel for Tommy Maximoff. Upon their return to Westview, Agatha and Billy are confronted by Death, who wants to reclaim Billy's soul. Agatha sacrifices herself to let Billy go, but soon comes back as a ghost, and the pair become a coven of two. Bullseye is imprisoned for Foggy Nelson's death, and afterwards, Matt meets with Wilson Fisk about his candidacy for the New York mayorship. Thaddeus Ross is elected as the new U.S. president. On New Year's Eve, Wilson Fisk is officially elected mayor of New York. As Matt Murdock continues spending his time as a lawyer and failing to support his clients in meaningful ways, he slowly realizes that being Daredevil was more important. Unfortunately, Wilson Fisk continues abusing his position as mayor, recruiting a group of corrupt Punisher-idolizing cops to become an anti-vigilante task force. After Bullseye breaks out of prison and Matt gets in the way of a bullet to save Kingpin, Kingpin creates a blackout in New York, blaming it on vigilantes and imposing martial law. With this news, Matt brings together his allies in secret to resist Kingpin. Samuel Stearns executes a plan to ruin Thaddeus Ross's reputation by turning him into a Hulk monster. Isaiah Bradley is caught by Stearns' mind control, framing him for attempted murder of President Ross. Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres, now the new Falcon, work together to track down Stearns and free Isaiah. Torres is badly injured during a battle over Tiamat's adamantium corpse, forcing Sam to confront Stearns alone. Unfortunately, Sam Stern's plan works, and Ross becomes Red Hulk. Sam uses his vibranium wings to hold him off long enough to talk him down. Afterwards, Ross and Stearns are locked up in the raft.
Val sends Yelena, Ghost, John Walker, and Taskmaster to kill each other in an effort to avoid being impeached as the head of the CIA. While Taskmaster is killed, the other three meet Bob, who helps them escape, learning he has powers.
Red Guardian arrives to save Yelena, Ghost, and Walker and is intercepted by Bucky, who gathers them to help testify against Val. With his team, the Red Guardian proclaimed Thunderbolts meets Val. They find Bob as Val's personalized superhero, the Sentry. Sentry holds off the Thunderbolts, but soon tries to betray Val. When Val activates her control device, Sentry turns into the Void, and the Thunderbolts work together to help Bob subdue the Void. In the aftermath, Val holds an emergency press conference, naming the team the New Avengers to save her reputation. The New Avengers receive an emergency alert, finding a ship entering from another universe. Whew, that was a long one. It's been a lot of work and a long time coming here. But thank you for sticking around to the end. Thank you for coming on this journey with us. And happy Julor.